This year, Bark celebrates its 10-year anniversary, and we are pumped. Today, we're recording live at Bark Week at the Cliff House in Maine, and I'm joined by our CEO, Brian Bason, and our CTO, Brandon Hilkert. From where we've been to where we're going, there's a lot to talk about, and these guys are busy, so let's get into it. All right, so thank you so much. I know there's a lot going on, especially today, and you'll see it probably on social later, so I won't talk about it. But I just wanted to take a minute to, first of all, say thank you. First of all, to you, Brian, because we wouldn't have any of this if you hadn't taken a big risk, left Twitter, okay? Company was doing very well at the time, and you started Bark, so big risk. And now fast forward to today, we employ almost 100 full-time employees. We help to protect over 7.5 million children across the nation. So just gratitude forever. And we also wouldn't be here today and have what we have if it weren't for our CTO, Brandon Hilkert, who continues to build all the things and make sure that we are, compliant and secure and doing the most that we can do and the best that we can do to help protect kids. So it felt fitting, since we're all here and you guys just love being on camera, uh, to get started with a few things. So first thing I wanted to ask, I think first impressions. So Brandon, what was your first impression when you got, I think, a DM from Brian on LinkedIn?
It was an email, I think.
Okay, an email.
It was pretty short. I remember bringing it up a couple years ago and sharing with a few people. It was short, and it was like, hey, just have some idea. Would love to talk, see what's going on. And in this position, you get a lot of things like that sometimes, right? So it's hard to differentiate if this is serious, if this person knows anything what they're doing, right? Yeah, and so
Have you figured that one out yet?
it's sort of TBD.
Got it. Okay.
But anyway, we chatted, and yeah, sort of here we are 10 years later, right? It's the rest is sort of history.
Brian, what was your first impression of Brandon after you talked?
Well, other than he has terrible hair, I didn't. No, Brandon was, I think immediately we felt a lot of kinship, I guess you'll say, a lot of camaraderie immediately, and that's obviously built over the last 10 years. But even initially, I think we shared a lot of common values around what we were trying to accomplish, and what we wanted to do with our lives and how we wanted to do it and with whom we wanted to do it. And so, yeah, it was love at first sight, I believe. It was really tremendous. I think, it's also interesting and helpful that we did have a lot of similarities kind of coming into it. I had come up through the engineering ranks, and so we had that in common. We'd both gone into science and engineering school. We both play tennis. We both do woodworking, et cetera, et cetera. There's just a lot of personal overlap that I think really helped foster that great kind of camaraderie from an early place.
I want to shout out to Mike Mansbach, who's on our board. He gave us one of the best compliments this year, and he was like, I advise a lot of companies, worked with a lot of companies, and it is very rare to see the healthy relationship and dialogue that this team has, and that means so much to me, because we don't take ourselves very seriously, but we take what we do very seriously. And it means so much to be a part of a team that prioritizes caring personally, but being very candid professionally and leaning into the data and intellectual honesty. Is there anything that the two of you want to speak to about that quickly, just to help other companies have that same kind of culture?
I do think there's an element of like, we're going to work really hard, but we're also going to be intellectually honest, which means to not have ego around, not have a belief that you just hold, even if the data proves that you're wrong, right? And to consider other ideas. And ultimately, we want to win as a team, not as individuals. And so that in particular, I think, was really foundational for how we built the business. And obviously, we can always improve, but I think we've done a really good job of building a culture that celebrates, performance and honesty while being kind. I think that's an important trade-off. And a lot of times when people are kind, they lack clarity and don't give good feedback. And so that's something that we've certainly work to get better at, but that comes natural for Brandon. At least I have to work on that one a little bit more. But yeah, it's there's a handful of those things I think that were just super important to how we built the business.
And I think the way we work too is very honest, but I think back about 10 years, with the anniversary of the company and being here, you think about like why it went well, when you think of startups and how many of them fail. And often it's dynamics around, well, tech versus business, or, just a sort of clashing there. Brian obviously has a background in tech, so that was easy for him to empathize with what was going on and prioritize things. But I think back, and we've had a lot of disagreements over the years, and none of them have been personal. And I don't think either of us.
Yeah, nor contentious. Which I guess the personal,
you just have different opinions, and you like honestly recognize that. I don't agree, but like we need to figure out a way. So either one of us we got to go one way or the other, and we choose that way, and then we just commit to doing it. But you don't walk away thinking like, man, I don't like him, or it really bothers me. And I don't think back about 2 years ago when he said X, and gosh, it really got me upset. It's like, I don't know, 10 minutes later, it's like, oh, just move on. And that sort of lack of long-term memory for decisions, I think was really important. It has been really important into just continuing to have positive steps forward in every way. And it's not about one person or the other. It's just about us collectively.
Yeah. How do we win? And I think, you mentioned data, speed of iteration and getting data on which we can make decisions is super important as well. And that's important to what Brandon said, because, when you're if you have a disagreement, very rarely, maybe never, have we not been able to figure out the right path collaboratively. And so, yes, if there's still disagreement at some point, you do need to kind of align, and, everyone's got to get on board. But that actually, I can't think of a situation where that's happened. We've generally said, okay, well, what's the data? And if we don't have it, how do we get it, right, to make a more informed decision?
Next, I would like for Brandon and Brian to riff on what makes Spark so successful. Not because I want to toot our own horn, but like as three executives who consume podcasts to gain knowledge and wisdom and insight from people who have been there and done that. I feel like now that we've got 10 years under our belt, we can maybe provide some of that to other people that are especially in the world of startups. So while you're thinking of your answer, I want to share my first impressions of Brian and Brandon. So Brian, when he reached out, I was part of a startup that was like, whew, I'm not even going to say a lot of what I want to say about it, but basically it was not good. A lot of not good. And so not good that I was like, I am never, ever, ever going to work for a startup ever again. Like never again. Here we are. I get a message from LinkedIn, message from Brian on LinkedIn, and I won't go into details, but I was like, and fast forward to, a few conversations and meetings, and I was like, I'm going to work for the startup. Brian asked me one of the best questions that a CEO has ever asked me, which is, if money was no object, resources were no object, time was no object, what would you do? What would you do to raise awareness? And I threw out a big idea. He didn't flinch. He thought about it for a minute, and he was like, it's a great idea. I love it. Let's make it happen. And we freaking made it happen. So, and one more thing. We have one-on-ones every week. And most of the time it's like, how are things going? I'm like, things are great, because you don't really want to bring bad news to your boss. But he flipped the script on me a few weeks ago, and he was like, I'm not going to ask you how things are going. I'm going to ask you what could be better. And I was like, dang, bro, I didn't say that out loud to him, but in my head I was like, that's a great question. And as a result, we discussed some things that could be better, and I felt empowered to make it better. He really helps us embrace we don't fail. We either succeed or we learn, and we keep moving forward. And to not be afraid of losing your job because of a certain failure, I think is one of the reasons why we're so successful. So I'm going to get your answers to that question in a minute, but I want to talk about Brandon. So Brandon, I was deathly afraid of him. I was like, this guy is all business. He is so serious. Like, he is really smart, and you do not waste his time. You do not Slack him emojis. You do not Slack him gifts. You do not say, "Hey, you want to talk," and not tell him why you want to talk. Efficiency is everything.
I feel like you just gave a TED talk on how to talk to a CTO. That's great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nailed it.
Some people might be afraid of him, but they don't need to be, because he's incredibly kind and thoughtful, and he's direct. And we need more directness in the world. And I just have a lot of respect for how you operate. And I think that's why Bark is so great, because of the two of you, and it comes top down. So I'm gonna stop talking now. Brian, why do you think we're so successful? Why are we still in business after 10 years when 90% of startups fail?
Yeah, I mean, a lot has to go right. So it wasn't just one thing. I mean, the number one thing is you can't succeed without a great team. And so starting with Brandon at the helm on the tech side was the smartest thing I did in the entire 10-year journey, because that shaped not only the product execution side of things, but also just the culture. I mean, all the things that we've been talking about are cultural elements that are very ingrained in who we are, I believe. And so, that I think permeates as you build the business, again, data, speed, just focusing on learning and getting it better every time. We both came from the school of thought of, moving quickly, getting product out there quickly, and getting feedback from customers. I think that's really been super important to our success. And yeah, I think, again, the underlying thing are all the values we've talked about. Our ability to communicate openly and honestly, and just to move quickly, has, I think, probably been the biggest thing. And then I think we've been really great about hiring. Again, the team is everything, and being able to put together a truly world-class team, it makes things much easier when you've got a lot of great people.
I remember a lot of changes over the years, where you either don't have that much money and you're like, we're going to try this. We tried a school's product, right? And all this, like, yeah, it seems like there's a big need for this. And so the speed, but the agility, being able to sort of adapt quickly. You get some money. Okay, we're going to try this campaign. We can dump a little bit more money into. We can see what happens. Oh, that didn't go well. Let's just go over here, right? So the speed of changing and not being too kind of stuck in how you think it should go and how it actually does. You're humbled a lot of times, right? Because like I constantly receive feedback from customers, and that's always been really important to us. And I think it's gone well for us, but it's very easy to believe that like I want this, or I have kids and therefore like I want it to work like this. And that's probably true to start, and then all of a sudden 60-70% of the people don't want that, and you're just like, wait a second, I didn't understand that, but didn't let that sort of stick and say like, well, if this is what people want, then clearly we're going to make a solution for them, right? Or make it in a way that like it'll work for everyone. But listening to customers was a big piece of it, and then being able to change quickly. So like from the start, speed has always been my thing. And I know we joke about the whole like don't waste my time thing, but like it sort of all is in the same realm. It's like if we're talking all the time or having meetings all the time, we can't listen to customers and we can't ship changes. And we've talked to larger companies over the years of partnerships and whatever, and we either it's a diligence thing or just kind of like sitting down and chatting, and we tell them how often we deploy or what teams look like, and they're like, wait, I don't understand, and it's very confusing or just different. And I think we've had enough confidence to go against the grain in a lot of ways. And when people tell us customer or companies should run in a certain way, or they should have these certain positions, or a certain amount of people should be doing X, it's sort of stuck in maybe an old school thought, and we're like, that doesn't make any sense. We'll do something different. Or maybe it doesn't make sense for us. Maybe it obviously works for a lot of people, and so we've adapted what we do with how we want to work, and it's a function of who's on the team. Right? Because if somebody's on the team that can do a bunch of different things, why do you need an individual position for that? Why do you need a product manager if, it's sort of built into a lot of us? So we're all doing the same thing. So going against the grain and speed, I would say, are the big things. But it's worked out for us. I don't know that it's prescriptive though, and that's the tricky part, is giving advice. It's very specific to us. We've been lucky to understand each other deep enough to know how to work together. And I guess 10 years would probably do that for you.
Yeah, I think that's all true. I would say one other small, I guess it's a bit of advice, but something that's worked well for us is really focusing on letting people who have an exceptional skill or domain expertise just focus on that. I think there's a lot of times people say, okay, well, this person's great at this and they're not so great at this other thing, and they spend all their time trying to get that person to get better at the thing they're not good at, and that actually generally is a big waste of time, because they can maybe only get so much better at that thing, but what they should be focusing on is the thing that they're exceptional at, and the two of you fall into this very clearly. Not saying you guys have any weaknesses, but the things that you both have things that you're exceptional at. And my goal has been, how do I shield you from those other things so that you can focus on that? And so, yeah, how do I keep Brandon out of meetings and writing code, right? That mentality, if you just do that, people are happier because they're doing the thing that they want to do and that they're good at, but then also you just get far more productivity. And so I'm more of a generalist. I'm not great at anything, but I'm good at a decent amount of things. And so I try to backfill those things and let exceptional people, do what they do best.
I'm going to give you some advice that you gave me, which is I think you need to be more confident. I'd say you're pretty great at a lot of things.
I think he's downplaying some things that don't show up as attributes of a startup, though, right? It's like the coordination of everything. It's managing all these tasks, wearing a lot of hats. It's motivating people. Like, you wouldn't have a people motivator on your team, right? You just have somebody that's very good at it, and all of a sudden the whole company responds. So these are all pieces of the puzzle that he has a lot of, and helps it be all successful as a part of that.
Something that I really admire about the both of you is a lack of fear. We're working sometimes against some of the largest companies in the world. I won't name them, but tech companies, social media platforms haven't really been our biggest supporters. And a lot of people will be like, oh no, what do we do? And we're just like, nah, dude, we're going to do the right thing. We're going to build the best products and services for families that truly prioritize the health and well-being of children. And the public will see that, and they'll buy our products. They'll support our company. We have a community now, in addition to consumers, right? We're not just a business. We're a community, and we're changing the world. So no fear. I have you both to thank for that. Speaking of fear, Brian, how did you wrangle leaving Twitter to start this company that you did not know how it was going to do? Like, have you always been a risk taker? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, I don't know that I'm inherently a risk taker. I guess I do take calculated risks. I mean, it's, I think we all have this subconscious risk versus reward calculation that we're doing, and it's different for every person. But for me, I'd done a handful of startups previously. Yeah, I was working at Twitter, and it actually was a really great place to work in a lot of ways. But and I had after they had acquired our last company, there was a earnout period, and so I was on the hook for several years more to kind of earn out all of the money from that acquisition. And my oldest son, it was at the point where we were kind of thinking about giving him a hand-me-down phone, and I started looking for solutions, and they just weren't really readily available. And also at the same time was just increasingly concerned with the rising rates of teen and tween suicides, depressions, predation, bullying, etc. And thought, this is an opportunity for me I've been working kind of in social media in different ways for the past decade, and this is the thing that I want to try to tackle. I just felt very drawn to it, and was really grateful to find Brandon and somebody who I could start the business with that shared that same passion, and just goal of. So I think all that to say, when you have that motivation at the core, it's easy to be brave. Like I guess it didn't occur to me that was brave. There is certainly risk, like you said. The vast majority of startups fail. And so you go into a startup expecting that you're going to defy the odds, which in most things is foolhardy. But fortunately, it's worked out pretty well for us. But again, I think if you increase the odds of success with all the stuff we've been talking about. If you have the right people and the right sort of mission driving what you do, it makes it far easier to execute day in and day out, and have a product that, and especially if you're listening to customers, you inherently develop something that people want. And so I think we've made some good strategic decisions along the way, and that's also certainly helped. but yeah, I guess maybe I should have thought more about the fear part of it, but I jumped in. It felt like it was a problem that needed to be solved, and then I felt drawn to solve, and so that kind of was as far as it went in my head.
It's just so incredible. It's so incredible. I'd like to now shift to some of our favorite Bark memories. I'll throw out a couple, probably stealing a couple of yours, but I get to do that because I'm the host. I mean, from flying into New York City on the last flight before a blizzard and before all the airports shut down to try to make it on CBS This Morning Live with this guy. High five, we crushed it. That was terrifying. Thank God for deodorant. To working with the CDC, like being at CDC headquarters to work on a study to help shed light on reducing the rate of youth suicide, to hearing directly from law enforcement that our tech caught predators, prevented credible school shooting threats, to launching hardware that doesn't even allow a child to take a nude photo or video, which, by the way, Apple, you could do that and you don't. So what's up with that? Like, really? It's just the amount of things that we have been able to do as a company that were both professionally gratifying and mind-blowing, but also truly make an impact on the world. It doesn't seem real. I'm in shock. Parents that have come up to all of us and said, your tech saved my child's life. There's nothing more powerful than that. Anyway, I don't want to take all of them. Brandon, I'll start with you. What have been some of the most amazing things for you personally and professionally over the past 10 years?
A handful stick out, some good, some bad. There have been a handful of moments of growth of the company that, technically were challenging. And I remember some moments of sitting with maybe no one else around me, thinking about how is this going to work, because it's not working at the very moment. And the longer it doesn't work, the less, people are going to sit around waiting for it. One of them was when the Bark for Schools product became really popular quickly. I was not quite prepared for that. And that required some pretty big architectural changes that were a little stressful. I remember a handful of those. I remember in 2018 when Apple decided to change what was allowed in iCloud, and that prompted us to make the Bark desktop app, and then further kind of iterate on how we monitor iOS devices, and then quite a few companies followed what we did after that. That was a big moment, right? iOS customers made up a large part of our customer base, and the thought of them essentially disappearing was going to be catastrophic at best for the company. I remember making what went into making the Bark phone. That was both stressful and very exciting at the same time. It's hard to imagine a company of our size doing all that we did in that time period successfully, and then being able to launch it and be a national MVNO and offer cell service. I remember sharing that we got that Time Magazine award for the phone with a coworker who helped build the phone. Those are the highlights that come to mind.
Yeah, there's a handful, and they fall into different categories for me. You mentioned the customer testimonials, which are, number one for sure. And there's not necessarily one that stands out because, there's been literally thousands of them that have the same, shape, which is, your product saved my child's life, like literally. Typically that's, a suicide situation, but there's other domains in which that's happened too. But that in aggregate, those are just so meaningful, and individually they're incredibly meaningful to me. It's just massively motivating to know that you're working on something that has that level of impact, a positive, change impact for a lot of people. So that's bucket one for sure. Bucket two is like we've solved some really great technical problems, and just across the board. We solved so many, how many times have we said, how do we do that? We got to figure this out. Over 10 years, it's been a lot. Um, and that, I think Brandon and I also share that gene of like, we like building stuff, but we also like figuring out how to do something. Yeah, yeah, we just both like learning, and we're both curious, I think. So that's definitely another thing that I've really loved about this, and the challenges are always different. As we've evolved into supporting hardware, as we've evolved into, like you said, cellular, et cetera. These all just have massive amounts of complexity, some of which are obvious and some aren't. When you start thinking about taxes and compliance and all the different things. Um, I think one of the other buckets that I've always been really proud of, especially now, because we have so many of our employees have been with us for so long. I'm just really proud of the career growth that I've seen in so many people at this company. And I don't know, that means a lot to me. That not only is this a company that creates a product that hopefully matters to a whole lot of people and makes the world a better place, but also that the lives of our employees are better than they otherwise would have been. And especially when you're in the trenches with people for a long time, you're rooting for them. And it's just, I don't know, I love thinking about a whole bunch of people and the career growth that they've seen. And some of that, it's not been easy, right? Some of it has, but certainly some of that has had to come from candid conversations or difficult situations. I certainly don't want ever to, I'm an optimist, so I tend to just focus on the good things, but we've had a lot of challenges at the business. Every company does. I mean, but there's been a lot of difficult things we've had to overcome. And but through that, it sharpens people, right? When you have to go through those types of things. And if you have that basis of being intellectually honest and able to communicate, it just helps all of that work much more nicely over time. And so I'm really proud of that.
Especially I think 3 at least employees that I know that have decided to go pursue other things professionally and have come back to Bark. That's how good Bark is. People come back. And we don't let everybody back. but but some people do get to come back. You know who you are. So we've got a big night coming up, and I feel like I'm getting to interview like some rock stars before they go on stage, and so I don't want to take up too much time. But I think I'd love to end with maybe teasing what's coming. What are the people who follow Bark, customers of Bark, community of Bark, the community of people who are looking to make the world a safer place for kids online? What do they have to look forward to from us in the coming weeks and months and years?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so Brandon was talking about the Bark desktop app, which was an amazing solution to a difficult problem, and it served us well for many years. We have a new product coming out called the Bark Sync that we're really excited about that will streamline the iOS monitoring side of things even further, and so we're really excited for that. So that's coming shortly. And then later this year, we are going to launch our first device aimed for not for kids. The first time we've ever kind of branched out, and so a phone for seniors. Elder fraud is a massive problem, and I think one of the things we're uniquely good at is taking in a bunch of data and detecting stuff going on in that data. And so I think applying that to scams and different threats, and those are becoming more and more common with AI, deepfake type stuff. That just makes it all the easier and more real. So I'm really excited to launch that in a few months, and hopefully help a different segment of families or of families feel safe online in the digital space, and also to empower engagement between family members. It's another thing that we're really, really excited to pursue.
It's awesome. Anything else you want to add there?
Those are the big ones. I mean, I think we'll continue to do our best to make compelling products that help people, families now, seniors, all across the map. So it's exciting. I think it's exciting to see the more we can do for the world. And it'll be exciting next year to sort of revisit how this changed the company.
Yes, and keep the feedback coming. Brandon literally reads cancellation emails. He wants to know why. because he and the team are constantly looking to how to improve things, how to make it better. Those aren't empty promises. If you aren't already in the Parenting in a Tech World Facebook group with, gosh, over 600,000 people, um, he's in the group. I'm in the group. Our team's in the group. We're actively listening to hear what is important to you and what you need. So feel free to share that feedback with us of what we can do, how we can do it better. It's truly an honor to be at this company, to have been at this company for as long as I have. Eternally grateful to you and everybody that we work with. It's just, I'm speechless, which I rarely am. If you could go back 10 years to day one of Bark, what would you tell yourself? I'll start with you, Brian.
Buy NVIDIA stock. No, there's yeah. I mean, that's a hard question because inherently, you only get one path, one time to carve the path, and so of course once you try, we've had a lot of things that we tried that didn't work. We've been fortunate enough to have a lot that did. So the obvious answer would be don't do the things that don't work. But even that I don't think is quite right because those failures were part of how we learned and how we grew. And so without those, I think we would not be the same company as we are today. We may have achieved certain things faster with that foreknowledge, but I think that actually would have been sacrificing part of our core foundational, ethos that we have. So I ascribe to the view that we shouldn't change a thing. We shouldn't think that we should have changed a thing. We did exactly what we needed to do. It doesn't mean all of it was right, but that's what we needed to do to get to where we are today.
We've talked about that a lot, is like what would you do differently if you could, right? I think we both said nothing, right? Because like today, if you knew all, without the knowledge of all that, we wouldn't be able to make good decisions. So now you'd be up to speed going, I got all successes, but now you're on your own to make decisions going forward. And it's easy to look back and be like, don't do that. We tried that, and that wasn't, at least maybe it didn't work back then, right? But you have the context to know like the world's a little different now, or our customers are a little different, or maybe people are looking for different types of solutions that may work now. But we do know don't do it like that, because it didn't work then. So all that context really helps.
Yeah, you hinted at something there that I think is definitely important. We've definitely, some of our failures were from sometimes our ideas outpace our ability to execute them. Like the things that we tried at a very early stage as a company, certain partnerships we were trying to form, certain, it's almost silly now that I look back on it. I'm like, wow, we weren't ready for that. But again, that was how we learned. And so, I think timing and the sequencing of those things is really important. And so, yeah, sometimes it didn't work. And then we have to analyze why. You have to do that post-mortem and say, well, why didn't that work? Was it bad execution? Was it a flawed strategy? And then adjust from there and, either don't do that thing again or do it, but do it better, or do it at a better time. Yeah.
I've been a C-level executive for over a decade now, and Titania in her early 30s is much different than Titania in her early 40s. So I would say to anybody out there who's in the professional world, or honestly, this works for personal advice too. I would say, one, be more confident. That's something that Brian has helped me to get better at. Not cocky, right, but confident. And then give the candid feedback sooner. Don't be afraid to give that candid feedback that is hard but important. Candor is kindness. You don't do anybody a favor by holding back things that need to be talked about and need to be addressed. Everybody is better for it, and it's not your job how that information is received and dealt with, right? Your job is to be honest sooner than later. So that's what I would say. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brandon. And that's a wrap.